I counted 6 fires on the ridge that year. Only 5 of them were real. I'll get to the 6th one, but first, you need to know about the shape. It was my 3rd night alone at the lookout cabin. I woke up at 3 a.m. exactly. No sound, no alarm. My eyes just opened, like something had reached in and switched them on. I looked out the window, the way I'd been trained to, checking for smoke. There was a shape standing on the ridge across from me, tall, still, facing my cabin. I told myself it was a tree, or a rock, just my eyes playing tricks in the dark. But trees don't turn around when you step outside to look closer. This one did. I stood on my porch in the freezing dark, staring at something that had just proven it knew I was there. And that's when I understood I wasn't going to sleep again that night. Maybe not for a long time. My name is Claire Bennett. I was a fire lookout for the Forest Service, alone at a place called Harlan Ridge, deep in the Washington backcountry. My job was simple. Watch the tree line, radio and smoke, that's it. Across the valley from my cabin was another ridge, higher than mine, bare rock at the top. No trail, nobody hiked it. The other rangers called it Widow's Ridge. I didn't know why yet. I would. I didn't sleep the rest of that night. At sunrise, I grabbed the binoculars and searched Widow's Ridge for an hour. Nothing, just rock, dead grass, a few burned stumps from some old fire. First week alone in a place like that, your mind plays games. That's what they tell you in training. Cabin fever, they call it, like it's a joke. I radioed the district office anyway just to hear a voice. Bennett, checking in. Harlan Ridge is clear, no smoke. The dispatcher, a guy named Roy, laughed. You holding up okay out there, Claire? First posting's always the hardest. I almost told him about the shape. I almost didn't. Hey Roy, I said instead, what's the deal with Widow's Ridge? Why's it called that? Roy paused. Too long. Old story, he said. Before your time. Don't worry about it. Small answers make the question bigger. I let it go. For one more day. That night I dreamed about the shape. In the dream, it wasn't on the ridge anymore. It was standing in my kitchen. I woke up at 3 a.m., my heart slamming. The kitchen light was on. I never turned it on. At 2:58, I stood at the window with the binoculars ready, feeling stupid, feeling like a kid checking under the bed. At 3 o'clock, the shape was there again. Same spot, same stillness. This time I could see more. It was the size of a tall man, but the shape was wrong. Too straight, too narrow at the top, like it was wearing something that didn't move in the wind. And the wind was strong that night. My cabin creaked with it. The trees on my ridge bent hard. Widow's Ridge didn't move at all. Not one blade of grass. I watched it for 4 minutes. Then it was gone. Not walked away. Not faded into the dark. Just gone. Between one blink and the next. I called Roy in the morning and didn't hold back. There's something standing on Widow's Ridge every night at 3 a.m. I need to know what it is. Roy's voice changed. Careful, slow. Claire, listen to me. Whatever you're seeing, don't go looking for it. And don't put it in your reports. Just don't. Why not? He said he had another call coming in. The radio went quiet. I sat there holding the receiver long after the line went dead. I finally understood something. Roy wasn't surprised. He knew exactly what I was talking about. And he wasn't going to be the one to tell me. The cabin had a logbook. Every lookout before me had written in it. Weather notes, wildlife sightings, boring stuff, going back almost 40 years. That afternoon I went through every page. Most of it was nothing. Deer counts, storm warnings. A bear in the food shed in 1998, written in dry, official language, like the guy filing a form. But every few years, something else. Short entries, in handwriting that changed with every voice behind it. 1991, block letters, careful. Saw a man on the far ridge again. 3rd night in a row, radioed it in. Told to ignore it. 2003, Messier, faster. It stood there 4 minutes tonight, same as always. I'm starting to think it's not a man. 2011, barely legible. like it was written in the dark without looking down. Whatever's out there, it knows I'm watching it back. I don't know how I know that, I just know it. And near the very last page, from 2 years before I arrived, one line in handwriting that shook on every letter. It's not watching the ridge, it's watching the cabin. It's counting something. I think it's counting us. Nothing else was written after that. The rest of the logbook was blank. I flipped to the front cover to check the name of that last lookout. Someone had torn the page out. I drove 2 hours down to the ranger station and found Roy in person. I wasn't spending another night up there without at least one real answer. He was maybe 50, gray at the temples, the kind of man who'd spent 30 years in these woods and thought he'd seen everything it could throw at him. He didn't look happy to see me. "You shouldn't have come down here," he said. "You should be watching for smoke. Tell me about the last lookout. What happened to her?" Roy rubbed his face with both hands, like he was buying time to decide something. "Her name was Nora Kessler," he said. "2 months at Harlan Ridge. Good lookout. Then one night she radioed in, said she saw someone on Widow's Ridge, same as you. We told her what we tell everybody. Ignore it. And? On her 41st night, she stopped radioing in. We sent a truck up. Cabin was empty. Door locked from the inside. No struggle, nothing missing. No footprints leaving the property. Roy, why does the Forest Service keep sending people up there if this keeps happening?" He looked at me like the answer was obvious and terrible. "Because it doesn't happen every time. 4 times in 40 years, the others saw it, reported it, finished their season, went home fine. We don't know what decides who it takes. Then how do I make sure it's not me?" Roy didn't answer that. He just said, "Don't go past 40 nights." I asked him why 40. He looked at me like I'd asked him to explain the ocean, and said nothing at all. I drove back to Harlan Ridge with that number stuck in my head. 40 nights. I was on night 5. 35 to go before I even reached the point where Nora vanished. That night, I got out my park radio, the kind that could pick up other lookout channels, and started scanning for chatter. If this thing had a pattern going back decades, maybe someone else had tried to record it properly. At 2:47, static came through. Not words, a rhythm. 3 short bursts, a pause, 3 more, over and over, matching almost exactly with a heartbeat. At 2:58, it stopped. At 3 o'clock, the shape appeared on the ridge, right on schedule. And for the first time, I understood the log entry that had chilled me the most. It really was counting something. I think it had just finished counting me. By night 8, I'd stopped being scared in the simple way. Now I was scared in a colder way, the kind where you start planning instead of panicking. I set a camera on a tripod, timer triggered for 3 a.m., pointed at Widow's Ridge. If I couldn't trust my eyes in the dark, maybe I could trust a lens. I also found a stronger pair of binoculars in the equipment shed. At 3 o'clock, the shape appeared, exactly like always. I put the binoculars up. For the first time, I saw its face, or where a face should have been. There was nothing there. Not skin, not a mask, not even darkness. It was like looking at the sun, a bright, empty smear, where my eyes refused to focus. The rest of it was almost normal, tall, thin, wearing something like a long coat that didn't move in the wind. But above the collar, there was just a place my vision slid away from. My hands shook too hard to hold the binoculars steady. I lowered them. When I looked again with just my eyes, the shape had turned. It wasn't facing the cabin anymore. It was facing the exact window I was standing at. I stumbled back so fast I knocked over a lamp. 30 seconds later, when I dared to look again, it was gone. But the camera had kept shooting the whole time. On its timer, whether I was brave enough to watch or not. Morning came gray and rainy. I pulled the memory card out with hands that hadn't stopped shaking since 3 a.m. 12 photos, one every 30 seconds. The first 8 showed nothing. Empty ridge, dark shapes of rock, and dead grass. The 9th showed the figure, clear as anything, tall and thin against the tree line, right where I'd seen it. Except in the photo, its face wasn't empty like it looked through the binoculars. In the photo, it had a face. looking straight into the camera lens, not at my window, like I remembered with my own eyes. A woman's face, thin, tired, dark circles under wide eyes, hair pulled back tight. I didn't recognize her. The 10th photo, 30 seconds later, showed the figure gone from the ridge. It was standing in my kitchen instead. Same shape, same coat, standing right by my stove, in a room I'd been sitting in the entire time this camera was shooting outside. I never saw it, never heard it. The camera had somehow caught the reflection of my kitchen window at just the right angle, showing what stood behind me while I stood at my own front window, thinking I was the one doing the watching. I grabbed the radio. My hands shook so bad I almost couldn't press the button. Roy, come in." Only static. I checked the antenna. Fine. The batteries, fine. The radio worked. It just wasn't picking anything up. Like Harlan Ridge had been cut off from the rest of the world sometime in the night, and nobody had told me yet. I want to tell you I packed up and drove away that morning. That would have been the smart thing. I didn't do it. There's a reason I stayed, and it wasn't just curiosity. 3 years before Harlan Ridge, I walked away from a marriage I couldn't fix, and a job I couldn't stand, and every time in my life I'd walked away from something hard, it had cost me more than staying ever would have. I promised myself the next hard thing, I'd see through to the end. I didn't know yet how bad an idea that promise was. So I stayed, and the mountain gave me 3 nights I still can't forget. Night 15. The radio breathing was louder. I recorded it on my phone and slowed it down. It wasn't static. It was actual breathing. Slow, even. 3 breaths. A pause, 3 more. Like something huge standing close to a microphone. Patient. Night 22. The shape didn't stay on the ridge. For 3 full seconds, it was gone from Widow's Ridge and standing at the tree line on my side of the valley, closer than it had ever been. Then it was back on the ridge, like it had never moved at all, except now I knew it could. Night 30. I found fresh footprints in the mud outside my own front door. Bare feet. Long, narrow, 5 toes each. Human-shaped but too long in the arch. Pressed deep, like something heavy had stood there a long time. They led from the tree line right up to my window. Then they stopped. No prints leading away. Whatever left them was still supposed to be standing right outside that window. I never saw it leave. On night 37, I called Roy and told him I wanted out. I didn't care about finishing the season. I wanted a truck up that mountain by morning. "I understand," he said. He didn't argue. That scared me more than anything else had. "Send someone tomorrow," he said. "Just get through tonight. Stay inside. Don't go near the windows after 3. One question had been sitting in my chest for weeks. Roy, the woman in my camera photo, thin face, dark circles, hair pulled back. Was that Nora? Silence. Long enough I thought the radio had died again. "I don't have a picture to compare it to," Roy said finally. "Her file's incomplete. Been that way since before I started. Nobody's ever explained why. Then how do we know she was even real? How do I know this isn't just a story you tell new lookouts?" Roy's answer came quiet, and it has stayed with me every day since. Because I drove up that mountain the morning she disappeared. I saw the empty cabin myself, and I saw something else. I never put it in my report because nobody would have believed me. "What did you see?" Her logbook was open on the table. Last page. Under that final line about it counting us, there was one more sentence, written in her handwriting. It said, "I understand now. It doesn't take you the first time it sees you. It takes you the last time you see it." I felt sick, because I had seen it clearly, face and all, only once, through that camera. Night 8. Which meant, if that line meant what I thought it meant, the countdown hadn't even started. Night 40. My last night, if the truck came like Roy promised. I did everything right, every light on, windows checked, both doors locked, the way I'd locked them every night for a month. At 2:50, the radio filled with breathing, right on time. At 2:58, I made myself not look at the ridge. I sat in the middle of the cabin floor, as far from every window as I could get, and stared at my own front door instead. Some instinct told me the ridge didn't matter anymore. It had never really been about the ridge. At 3 o'clock, the breathing on the radio stopped. The cabin went completely quiet. No wind, no creaking wood. Even my own heartbeat felt like it was waiting for permission to keep going. Then behind me, from the kitchen, the same spot from the photograph, a floorboard creaked. Slow, deliberate, like something heavy shifting its weight, testing if it was allowed another step. I didn't turn around. I couldn't make my body do it. A voice spoke, close enough that I felt breath against the back of my neck. It wasn't cold, like I'd expected. It was warm, almost gentle. It used my name the way someone says the name of a person they've known a long time. Claire, it said. You see me now. I ran for the door. I don't remember deciding to. My hand found the handle, pulled it open, and I stumbled out into the dark, gasping like I'd been underwater. I turned to slam the door shut behind me. The cabin was empty, every light still on, no shape in the kitchen, nothing at all. I stood on that porch until sunrise, too afraid to go back inside, too afraid to walk down a dark mountain road alone. When the relief truck finally ground up the access road at 8 a.m., a young ranger I'd never met rolled down his window and gave me a strange look.
"You Bennett?" he said. "Sorry it took so long. We got a weird call overnight. Had to reroute. Someone radioed the station, saying they were a lookout up at Harlan Ridge needing extraction. Said her name was Nora Kessler." My whole body went cold in the morning sun.
"That's impossible," I said. "Nora disappeared 2 years ago." The ranger frowned, checking his clipboard. "That's the thing," he said slowly. "Dispatch said the voice sounded exactly like you." I looked back at my cabin. Every light still burning, even in daylight, even though I was standing right there, outside, looking at it with my own 2 eyes. On the porch step, right where I'd stood all night, there were fresh, bare footprints in the frost, facing into the cabin. Not out of it. They gave me a week in town before anyone asked me to talk about it officially. A motel room, a heater that worked, curtains I kept shut anyway, out of habit more than fear. A district supervisor named Halverson came on the 4th day. Middle-aged, clipped voice. She was there to make the problem go away. On paper, anyway. "Walk me through the final night," she said, pen ready. I told her everything. The breathing on the radio, the floorboard, the voice using my name, the footprints facing the wrong way. She wrote almost none of it down. "You're certain," she said, "that you personally exited the cabin at approximately 3:02 a.m. and remained on the exterior porch until relief arrived at 0800. "Yes." "And you didn't re-enter the cabin at any point?" "No, I couldn't make myself." She finally looked up. "Ms. Bennett," the relief officer logged the cabin's interior lights on, all doors unlocked, and the wood stove burning fresh split logs when he walked through that morning. Split logs that weren't in the shed inventory the week before. "I don't understand what you're asking me." "I'm asking," she said, "whether you're certain it was you standing outside that whole night." I didn't have an answer. I still don't. Before they let me go, Halverson slid a folder across the table. Inside was one photograph, old, yellowed at the edges. A woman in a Forest Service uniform standing in front of the Harlan Ridge cabin, squinting into the sun. "This is Nora Kessler," she said. "We finally found a copy in the regional archive. Roy never had access to it." I looked at the face for a long time. Thin, tired, dark circles under wide eyes, hair pulled back tight. The exact face from my 9th photograph. "That's her," I said. "That's the face I saw." Halverson nodded slowly, like she'd expected that answer and hated getting it anyway. "There's something else," she said. "We pulled the relief officer's radio log from that morning. The transmission that used your name and Nora's name both. It wasn't sent from the cabin's radio unit. Our equipment doesn't have the range to explain where it actually came from." "Then where did it come from?" "Based on signal triangulation," she said, not quite meeting my eyes. "It came from Widow's Ridge." I asked her if she believed me. She didn't answer. She just closed the folder, said, "Get some rest, Ms. Bennett," and left. I never saw her again. I didn't tell Halverson everything. There's a version of that final night I've never put in any report, the same way Roy never put his line in his. When I ran onto the porch, gasping, and turned to slam the door, for half a second, before the cabin went dark and empty behind the glass, I saw two figures standing in that kitchen. Not one, two. Same height, same long, thin shape. Both facing the window, both facing me. For that half second, before my mind refused to hold on to it any longer, I finally understood the logbook line. It doesn't take you the first time it sees you. It takes you the last time you see it. I had seen it clearly exactly twice. Once through the camera, on night 8, once on the porch, for half a second, on night 40. The first time didn't count. I hadn't understood what I was looking at. The second time did. Which meant somewhere on that mountain, in that cabin with all its lights still burning, something wearing my face had already finished waiting for the next lookout to notice it standing there at exactly 3 a.m., and something wearing Nora's face had finally, after 2 years, been allowed to stop. They never sent anyone back to Harlan Ridge. Officially, the station was decommissioned that spring. Budget cuts, they said. A new tower 12 miles east with cameras instead of people. Nobody said the real reason out loud. Roy retired not long after. I heard he moved somewhere flat, somewhere without ridge lines. I never blamed him. I counted 6 fires that year on the horizon from Harlan Ridge. 5 of them I called in myself, and crews confirmed every one. The 6th I saw only once, late on my 39th night. A single point of orange light on top of Widow's Ridge, where no fire could start and no crew was ever sent. It burned steady and still until exactly 3 a.m. Then it went out. I never reported that one. I still don't know what it was. And some nights, I think that's the only honest thing I've got left to tell you. I still wake up sometimes at exactly 3 a.m. No alarm, no sound, for no reason I can name. I don't check the window anymore. I just lie there in the dark, very still, and I wait to see if anything moves first.